This is very.
See, you liked that better tonight, Joe, didn't you? You liked that?
I like it.
A bit
It
drama.
had that feeling of like Tron meets Stranger Things, dude.
It was a bit of drama, dude, you know. Bit of drama. Big show tonight.
80s drama.
We're actually going into a topic tonight, dude. What the heck's that all about?
Oh, man, this is great. This is what we used to do back in the day when we kind of went off the chain and mind melted on a nightly basis. So this is something that it's been long overdue, and we should probably just kick this thing off.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Because, you know, this was all kind of inspired. I really got thinking about this. Obviously, when we had David Icke on, he's kind of infamous for what he used to say back in the day when it came to the whole issue of reptilians.
Right.
And then, hot on the heels of that, the other night, one of the best shows, I think one of the best interviews in a long time with Charlie Robinson. And he was fresh from a trip to London, right? And what he had to say during that show, right near the start, it really got me thinking, really inspired me to look back in time and to look at all of this reptilian symbology that is all around us with, you know, not from a laugh and a joke, but from the perspective of just how much involvement and manipulation have entities like these had on human species over the years, Joe. So we're going to listen to a couple of seconds of this, and then we'll get right into it, folks. But tonight, we are going full reptilian.
But that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And so as you go into the city of London, which is small, I don't know geographically how big it is, but I'm going to say maybe 1 or 2 square miles, not the biggest place. But one of the symbols that you will see literally everywhere there are dragons. Dragons are guarding the entrance to the city. They're all over the place. They're all over London in general. So, I mean, those of us that sort of jokingly talk about the reptilian queen and everything, I mean, we're really not too far off. I took a tour of the Tower of London, which is used to be the castles where King George lived and ruled back in the 1100s. And I, you know, it's interesting. We did all the touristy type things, but I decided that I was going to just start taking pictures of anything reptilian related that I found in this castle. And it was everywhere. I mean, it was on the tops of these helmets that they'd had, the suits of armor that they would use for jousting had like a lizard on the top. And I mean, just very unnatural places that you would put a lizard or a dragon. They seem to be obsessed with it there with regard to any, you know, and of course, you and I know, and probably
incoming super chat.
Let's get it on. Brown chicken, brown cow. Woo.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
There's a ton of symbolism. Like a lot of cultures speak through symbols, more so than they do words. So you would see these sort of overriding themes, which was dragons, lizards, and just an obsession with jewels and things like that.
So Joe, there's an obsession, isn't there? You know, throughout time with these reptilian lizard entities that certainly aren't from our dimension, our world, and we can go way back into ancient times, right?
Man, that's what this is all about. Let's just start out by at least coming to an agreement that history as we know it is not the real history of the planet. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Right. So instantly that is something that has to be acknowledged first and foremost. Secondly, there's been evidence of intelligent life that is non-human, that has walked the planet. A great example of that is the elongated skulls down in South America. So not human DNA, but certainly something of an intelligent life form that roamed the earth. Again, like I said, it's much more like Lord of the Rings back then than it was cavemen and Neanderthals and things like that. So I find it extremely plausible As a matter of fact, I'm banking on it that there were reptilians.
Well, Joe, as
Probably
well.
many other species, Kev.
Yeah, and in recent times, doing a bit of digging into some of the shows I've been preparing for, I came across a story about tribes in the Amazon. And how they absolutely revered midgets, little people. So that obviously comes from some time in the past. There's some story attached to people, small people. Oh, we've got a new member.
Got a new member.
Oh, now that is...
Diggity.
Now we're jamming. Now we just need 9 more members and we'll be able to unlock a new emoji. And I think it's going to be Joda. Yes, you've guessed it. It's the hybrid Yoda and Joe. So we'll get some of that going for the next one. And obviously, if you want to support the stream, please do so. If not, it's all cool because we enjoy going through this kind of stuff anyway. This is the good woo, Joe, the good woo.
Yeah. Oh, man, it certainly is. I am absolutely thrilled to get into some of the things that we're getting into. What a great thing to get into reptilians.
Well, let me show you one of the timelines that I came across today, right? Because this is quite interesting. And it takes us back to the time of, and these are entities that we need to look at if we're going to be discussing this. But stories of the Anunnaki, Joe. And we come back here.
Very good, very good.
And this particular timeline takes us to 6000 BC, and we go back to Sumeria, the Sumerian city of Nineveh, right? Then you come forward, and this is the bit I want us to kind of discuss here. 5000 BC, it says Sumerian creation myth of Enki, Eridu settlement began. Now, you were the one that really started to open my eyes to this whole thing with Enki and the Lost Book of Enki and stuff, the Lost Book of Enoch and stuff like that, Joe. So This is really, really interesting, and this is one of the points where I think you'd have to put on our timeline, on our evidence board, a kind of data point that there seems to have been some kind of outward intervention round about this point, right?
Oh, there's most certainly that. Let me give you, since you brought up Enoch, I'm looking up the generations of Noah. And what do we got there?
Never cut down a fairy tree.
Never cut down a fairy tree. And if you ever hear music in the forest that shouldn't be there, don't go towards it, right? Because I heard that might be you heading towards a fairy circle. And magical forests. And I bet you that's where some of these reptilians, Joe, used to hang around.
Oh, absolutely. The generations up to Noah actually had a meaning, believe it or not. And I'm trying to find that code. So bear with me 1 second, because it's pretty amazing. It basically, the generations, when you take the first names of the men going up through from Adam to Noah, it actually means something, because each name means something in Hebrew, and it translates, and it's a code, and it's an unbelievable code. So I'm trying to get it right now. Let's see. Adam to Noah.
Well, when you dig that up, right, I'm going to go back to this here, because I find this quite interesting, right? Because it says here, after the Anunnaki genetically altered the primitive pre-human bipeds in Africa to make human slaves, they put them to work in the fields and building their massive temples called ziggurats. Now, this is
ziggurats, right?
Yeah, this is one of the partially constructed temples. All of their temples were destroyed in the inter-family war between the Anunnaki. So you can see that there, and this down here.
Isn't that interesting?
Badass, man, badass.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, the Tower of Babel, the actual foundation of the Tower of Babel, still exists today, and you can go visit it. It's called the Ziggurat of Eridu. So since you're talking about ziggurats, that's another important ziggurat. The Ziggurat of Eridu is the actual Tower of Babel. It's what's left of it. So if there's another piece of history that you can actually go and validate as being authentic, and it's something else. I found it. So each generation, from God to Noah actually foretold something. Listen to this. So you basically had this. You have God, right? He creates Adam. And then the from there it goes Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared. Then there's Enoch. Then there's Methuselah. Then there's Lamech. And then there's Noah. Now, each name means something in Hebrew. So Adam means man, right? Then Seth means is appointed. And so, like, I think my name in Italian is like little salad or something like that. I don't know what it is, but you get what I'm saying. It means something. So when you take all those names and you take their meanings together, this is what it says. The God, man, is appointed. A mortal man of sorrow is born. The glory of God shall come down, instructing that his death shall bring those in despair comfort and rest. Bam. That's what it means in Hebrew. All those, if you read them in order.
Where's my Anunnaki and aliens in there, dude?
Right? So interestingly enough, pre-flood, dude, there was all of these different species, if you will, and giants and everything else. So if you look at the real history of the earth.
Check this out as well, Joe. This ties in with it, right? Because then this is where this comes in. Like, you've got potential genetic creations.
Genetic creations. Yeah, dude.
You see?
Yeah.
And this is what, if they're making statues of these things, like making carvings to last in time, Joe, I don't think it was like the ramblings in the mind of like the ancient Banksy. I don't think they just unleashed some kind of graffiti artist on there. They were literally showing us things, But
question, why do you think, and this is total speculation, I don't expect you know the answer, nor anybody know the answer, but why do you think it was so important for them with some of the technology that they possessed? Why do you think everything was stone? Like, what do you think? Why stone was so important? Because if you look at today, like our modern technology,
I think science and everything else was more natural. It was more harnessing the elements of the earth and working with natural kind of sciences and magic.
Do you think like
here.
that? Do you think like the earth, wind, fire, that whole concept of harnessing the elements?
And to move stone, do
you think that's where that came from?
Yeah,
you think?
And to move stone and to make things so absolutely massive and to last the course of time, that's the ultimate, isn't it? If you're harnessing these kind of earth powers, earth energies, to take those massive, the heaviest things on the planet, put them together in structures like that, make walls where you're literally showing that you can, in my opinion, you've got science that's going down to the molecular level, Joe. We've spoke about this before. You look at some of the walls that you see created, it's almost like they're molded together, right?
Yes. Great point.
So it's almost as if that's their the pinnacle. It's almost showing off what they can do.
Okay, but also think about it. If you're able to liquefy stone cold and mold it almost like clay, if you will, then I guess
there you go.
That modern. You don't need that I guess like steel.
There you go in the chat room, Joe. One Polly over from TFR. We see him in there. Stone made liquid through sound. Absolutely.
Right. Liquefaction. Right. Yeah. We all know it exactly. But I guess my point is that if you think about it from an energy perspective, we talk about the Great Pyramid and how it was engineered with energy probably as one of its focuses. And just from like, look at cave homes, for example. Cave homes, people have made homes in rock. They're warm at night. They're cold during the day. They're very energy efficient. It's actually probably better to have like structures built like that just for the simple energy component of it, let alone
look at that, dude,
strength and everything else, right?
Look at that, a cave home.
That's what I mean. It's unbelievable, some of these cave homes, Kev.
You talk about these caves as well, though, right? And we get back.
I love that. Could you imagine,
That'd be
Kev?
awesome, dude. That'd be different class. But
Dude, my bunker, if that is, let me tell you something. Like, hypothetically speaking, if I won the lottery tomorrow, that's what I would do. I would get like one of those old missile silos, dude, and I would hunker down. And I would whatever county I belong to, it'd be like, here's 100 years of property tax in advance. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Go away. You know, that kind of thing. And that's what it would be like right there.
No, definitely, dude. But you look at these caves as well back in ancient times, right? When they were leaving their kind of images on the walls. Now, some of the images that they were drawing, they were far from human. And do you think they were showing us even earlier visitation by things that we would call the fallen ones back at the time we were talking about earlier? My point being, how many times, how many interventions, how many different species have actually visited this planet?
Or lived here.
Joe, how much of an influence, this is the big point, and this is why it's still important today, because how much of an influence are these things having on our reality? You know, we talk about last night, the Illuminati, blah, 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 right? But in all reality, we always talk about something interdimensional that's controlling these things. Now, you call it demonic. People call it the jinn. You can call it whatever you want, but it's some form of evil, right?
Some form of evil.
And
darkness.
Is the reptilians that we see in so many of these statues, and I had these statues up earlier on, I'll bring them up again. They're just everywhere. This is just London alone, you know. But is this almost a clue, an indication as to, you know, where the power's really coming from? Bearing in mind that is the city of London, you know. They don't hide it, Joe.
No, they don't. And it's been less and less hidden. I'd say probably since we've been doing this, Kev, things have gone from hidden to just out in the open. But interestingly enough, a lot of, like you're showing the architecture here, these clues have been there for the longest time.
Yeah.
St. John the Divine in New York City has unbelievable architecture. Some depicting what some would say a prophecy of the World Trade Center being attacked.
I was looking at this place today, and obviously this is a grander scale, but remember yesterday we were looking at Roslyn Chapel.
Roslyn Chapel, yeah. Very similar architecture, isn't
it? Same thing.
You notice that.
And you wonder, you know, how much hidden information still remains to be unlocked in these places, because you think with the sacred geometry and the math and everything else that they're using, Joe, and it's in particular Roslyn, you know, you've got the cymatic codes on the roof. You know, how much of our history are we still to unlock? And I'm not talking about what we're going to get from the mainstream or BBC documentaries, stuff like that. But yet, we looked at the kind of, here's the reptilian ones again. We'll go back here. We'll go back one. I mean, you look at all of these things around the planet. These things here. And you wonder, just wonder, why is it, Joe? Why is it? You know, if these things are so ridiculous and there's nothing to all of this, and bear in mind that's the Vatican.
Then why are they all over the place? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and that's the Vatican we're looking at there. And talking of the Vatican.
Yeah, like that wall of souls or whatever. It's
well, you know, you come to this one here, right? Inside the Pope's Reptilian audience hall in Vatican City. So there it is. You've got that. Okay, nothing much to see here. But then when you start going inside the place, I mean, look at this. That's blatantly a snake's head.
Doesn't. Hey, Kev, look. Don't make fun of the Pope like this, okay? It's nothing to see.
I know.
Winky dink, Kev.
I'll have that like what do you call them?
It was an oversight. They didn't look at the drawings before the builder built it.
I'll have the Swiss Guard over here. They'll be,
are you serious? And let me ask you this too.
It started. You almost channeled Begley there, dude. He asked me. Am I serious?
Are you serious? So my thing is, how can you, who self-identify as a Catholic, look at that and say that your religion or whatever is there's not something wrong with that?
And we're not talking about if you're a Catholic. We're talking about what's really behind it. You know,
No, exactly right. But
yeah,
I guess my point is,
Joe, I'm trying to keep
how
us.
could you not renounce that?
Joe, if we go after 1 billion people on here, we're inevitably going to get banned, right? So I'm just trying to explain it for the algorithm while the algorithm's getting ready to get us.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
No, absolutely, dude.
So here I am. I'm Joe Catholic, right? And I walk in and I'm like, what? I wouldn't support that anymore. I couldn't.
And Germanus is asking, is that the Vatican? Yeah, it's the Vatican.
Absolutely.
The Vatican audience, the Reptilian audience hall. So read this here. It says, among the many strange and suspicious statues, fountains, facades, and structures that occupy Vatican City. And remember, Vatican City, along with the City of London and Washington, that's your real three real power kind of cities right there. And now we're seeing the link with this reptilian symbology. I think that is important. It says here, the Pope's audience hall stands out for its uncanny resemblance to the snake. Completed in 1971, the peculiar structure sits only partly within the actual boundary of the city-state, and the whole building, inside and out, is unmistakably reptilian. Absolutely. I mean, you can see the head shape there after you've seen inside it. Scaled back.
I don't understand. Like, if you know that that's
I know, dude. I know. I mean,
I give up.
I know.
I don't know.
But you know, we often talk about the Bible, things like that, Joe, right? And today I was looking at the fact that in the Quran, in the actual Quran, it talks about how there was, I get this, hocus pocus between the jinn and women in this world, and how, yes,
Imagine that.
Yes, a commonality between the two stories. And it was talking about how the jinn came down and they had hocus pocus, brown chicken, brown cow, with the locals. Yeah.
Again, these parallels are striking, are they not, Kev? And
because they're all telling the same bloody story.
And how does that happen, though? Seriously, because history tells us. And the very place that it happened is there today. And it's the ziggurat of Eridu, the Tower of Babel. When we built that structure, God said, I have to spread the people out and confuse the languages. Otherwise, there's nothing these humans would be capable of. He had to do it. So he did. So what did you get? Now, everybody knew what happened up until that point. Everybody communicated. There was one unified language. You know, during that time, Kev, they say that man could speak to animals and animals to man. It used to be a universal thing. And God confused the languages because of the hocus pocus that we were doing.
Well, this place here, this one here, this is the ziggurat of Eridu. Yes. So this is the place that Joe is talking about, okay? And we've also got with us now, beamed in from a reptilian location not so far away, Scotty Lopez. Yes.
Hey!
Gentlemen, what's going
on?
We're going beneath the scales tonight, Scott. We're looking at all beneath of the clues that are around the planet, past and present, that there's been a lot of hocus pocus and interference from these reptilian things that we keep on hearing about. You know, just your typical Saturday night, Sunday morning conversation. How you doing, man?
Excellent. Yeah, I was tuning into the live stream a little bit before I decided to airdrop in, and
no, it's cool, man.
Yeah, that stuff with the Vatican, those weird statues and sculptures, and then the way that building. The architecture looks like a reptilian, like the front of a snake or something. I mean, some weird stuff going on there, man.
I mean, look at this.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at that. That's in the Vatican. You know, look at him sitting at the feet of
That's
something
what I
that
mean.
is that's a reptilian ooga booga.
And then you look at all the other symbology, like, oh man, I could get into a ton of crazy stuff. And maybe one of these nights we'll get into some of that.
I mean, look at this kind of thing on buildings, you know. I mean, do you think the architects were just having a laugh? Was it somebody a bit dark making the building? Nah. They're leaving. There's something to this. There's something a lot darker.
With like the gargoyle sculptures and all of that, and the weird, you know, it's just like.
Well, think about this. Think about this, guy.
Well,
Antichrist, right? What does that mean? Anti.
Just
means,
against.
This is the 1828 dictionary, Webster's dictionary. Against or in place of. So Antichrist is in place of Christ. And what does the Pope call himself? The Vicarus Filii Dei in Latin, or the Vicar of Christ. He says, Pope Leo XIII said, we hold upon this earth the place of God Almighty. Vicar means a substitute in office. Vicar of Christ, substitute Christ. That's what they think they are when they're here. So how is it that somebody that's supposed to be the substitute sit in that? I don't get it, Scotty. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know, of course, I've never understood the whole Pope situation, right? You know, like, no, I mean, like, how this guy is supposed to, you know, he's like, you know, I'm kind of the conduit, if you will.
Yeah, if you will.
I'm the.
You don't understand. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the fill-in guy for the big man. You know,
trust me.
yeah. But you know, I'm just a mortal. I'm just a man who obviously is flawed, because every man is flawed. But you know, trust me. You can trust me.
Trust him, Scott. He's got a foot fetish, man. He goes around washing people's feet, you know.
Listen to this. There's Satanism in the Vatican, so they say. Listen to this little tidbit, since we're talking about this reptilian audience hall. Catholic Archbishop Emmanuel Malingo is an exorcist and the author of the book Face to Face with the Devil. Now, Archbishop Malingo gave a speech entitled Satanist at Work in the Vatican at Fatima 2000 International Congress on World Peace, held in Rome in November of 1996. Mr. Malingo addressed an international audience of bishops, priests, nuns, and laity. Excerpts of the speech were reported in the winter of 1997 issue of the Fatima Crusader, a conservative pro-Marian Catholic newsletter that hosted the Fatima 2000 conference and the 3/397 issue of the New American. Listen to this. This is what Archbishop Malingo said, quote, "The devil in the Catholic Church is so protected now that he's like an animal protected by the government. Put on a game preserve that outlaws anyone, especially hunters, from trying to capture or kill it. The devil within the church today is actually protected by certain church authorities from the official devil hunter in the church, the exorcist." To the question, are there men of the Curia who are followers of Satan? Malingo responded, "Certainly there are priests and bishops. I stop at this level of ecclesiastical hierarchy because I am an archbishop. Higher than this, I cannot go." Malingo cited papal statements to back up his charges. Paul VI said that the smoke of Satan had entered into the Vatican. Now, in the Fatima Crusader article, Malachi Martin, a famous ex-Jesuit, a Vatican insider, and best-selling author, is quoted as saying, Archbishop Malingo is a good bishop, and his contention that there are Satanists in Rome is completely correct. Anybody who's acquainted with the state of affairs in the Vatican in the last 35 years is well aware that the Prince of Darkness has had and still has his surrogate in the court of St. Peter in Rome. And in 1990, Martin made reference to a satanic rite held in Rome in the 1990 nonfiction bestseller about geopolitics and the Vatican called The Keys of This Blood. It said in that book, most frighteningly for Pope John Paul II, he had come up against the irremovable presence of a malign strength in his own Vatican and in certain bishop chanceries. It was what knowledgeable churchmen called the superforce. Rumors, always difficult to verify, tied its installation to the beginning of Paul VI's reign in 1963. Indeed, Paul had alluded somberly to the smoke of Satan, which had entered the sanctuary, an oblique reference to an enthronement ceremony by Satanists in the Vatican. Besides, the incidence of satanic pedophilia, rites and practices was already documented among certain bishops and priests as widely dispersed as Turin in Italy and South Carolina in the United States. The cultic acts of satanic pedophilia are considered by professionals to be the culmination of the fallen archangel rites. What do you think about that, Scotty?
Wow. Very, very interesting stuff right there. Now, I think this goes even farther back, way farther back. And I think we can tie all of this to the Great Schism way back in the day when Western and Eastern Christianity separated, and you saw the actual formation of, pretty much the formation of the Catholic Church, right? Now, at one time it was more of a, I would say, patriarchal system. There was no head honcho. Yeah, there was no head honcho. There was just kind of leaders of churches scattered throughout, and that's how Eastern Orthodox Christianity still operates today. You just have your patriarchs, but nobody is really the head of, said Eastern Orthodox. I guess you could have your designated dude. I guess you could say, the one that went down to Antarctica, but yeah, but
good man, Scott. Good man.
Where the but where the schism took place though was one of these patriarchs said, you know what, I kind of want to be the head honcho. I kind of want to be the head dude, and you know what,
ends up being this guy called Constantine.
Yeah, and conveniently, God is speaking to me. I've become the conduit of God, and
interesting enough, Scotty, he was a sun worshiper on top of everything else.
Yes, very, very, very interesting. Yes, and so you had the other patriarchs go, dude, this is ridiculous, and they're like, come on, and then then you had the Great Schism, and that's when you had East and West kind of break apart in the formation of the modern Catholic Church, at least as we know it, I guess. And, a lot of the problem that Eastern Orthodox Christianity has with the Catholic Church, obviously, is from the get-go, they said, all right, well, you've just opened yourself up to conceding and allowing evil in, basically, and slowly making concessions and caving to any kind of dark sort of forces that may infiltrate into your organization. And as you see, it always seems like the Catholic Church kind of caves on one thing, cave on another thing, and they don't stick to the original tenets. They have this leeway that they're always willing to concede something, and it's morphed into something that is almost unrecognizable if you think
Yeah.
about it
No, you're right.
in the sense of pure sort of Christian,
Like
pure Christian,
like based on authentic
yes,
biblical
authentic. Yes, that's what I was. Yeah,
I
based
know
on
what you're talking about. Yeah, like being true to the biblical version of things, I guess.
and it's kind of become unrecognizable, and
Yeah.
because of that, it allowed all of these splinter groups to break off. I mean, look at how many sects of religion, or how many sects of Christianity just broke off from
Oh man.
Catholicism. I mean, it's crazy. And so if you look at like Eastern Orthodox Christianity, like basically what the Russians adhere to.
Yeah.
Oh, that hasn't changed ever since the schism. I mean, there really hasn't been any splinter groups or anything that has they still adhere to what they did back then.
Yeah.
That haven't changed. I mean, I'm sure it's not perfect, and I'm sure it has its own, whatever. But I would say, in the greater scheme of things, Eastern Orthodox Christianity is probably the closest you're going to get to being, that closest to that biblical sort of standpoint.
But I wonder where the reptilians come in on all this, though. That's the thing. It's like, wow, he built an audience hall to these things. So there's got to be some sort of validity, Kev.
You see, that's what gets me about the Vatican. They say one thing, but then when you start to dig beneath the surface and you look at some of their symbology and you find out what they're really like. I mean, in the Vatican, we've seen the crimes they cover up, not just the recent ones, but things from the past as well. And think of when they went to South America spreading this religion as well, and all of the history that they wiped out over there. And you look at some of the South American civilizations and look how they worshipped, you could say reptilian gods. You've got Quetzalcoatl.
Where do the Jesuits play into all of this, right? Because the Jesuits pretty much, isn't that kind of in their doctrine that they're supposed to be some kind of a secret infiltrating kind of group? You know what I mean? I'll be honest. I don't know too much about the whole Jesuit thing. But I know that
they're like the ninja scientist kind of
special ops. This is a little more. Now, remember, Malachi Martin was an ex-Jesuit. Now, he revealed much more about this alleged ritual that took place in a recent novel about 1996 called Windswept House, a Vatican novel. On page 492 of his book, Father Martin, in this story, vividly describes a ceremony called the enthronement of the fallen archangel Lucifer, supposedly held in St. Paul's Chapel in the Vatican, but linked with concurrent satanic rites here in the U.S. on June 29th, 1963, barely a week after the election of Paul VI. Just how bad did Martin judge things to be? Extremely so. This is what he said on page 492. Suddenly, it became unarguable that during this papacy, the Roman Catholic organization carried a permanent presence of clerics who worshiped Satan and liked it, of bishops and priests who, the S word, boys and each other, of nuns who performed the black rites of Wicca and who lived in woman-on-woman relationships. Every day, including Sundays and holy days, acts of heresy and blasphemy and outrage and indifference were committed and permitted at holy altars by men who'd been called to be priests. Sacrilegious actions and rites were not only performed on Christ's altars, but had the connivance, or at least the tactic permission of certain cardinals, archbishops, and bishops. In total number, they were a minority, anything from 1 to 10% of the church personnel. But of that minority, many occupied astoundingly high positions of rank. The fact that the Pope, it says the facts that brought the Pope to a new level of suffering were mainly two. The systemic organizational links, the network, in other words, that had been established between certain clerical homosexual groups and Satanist covens, and the inordinate power and influence of that network. So this is something that was going on, but there was a ritual that took place, Kev, on June 29th, 1963, that Father Malachi Martin said that not only happened at the Vatican, but also concurrently at other sites throughout the world. How crazy is that?
You see, I reckon behind closed doors, these ones are not communicating with anything good, Joe.
No.
They're communicating with the kind of things we've been looking at tonight. You can call them the reptilians, call them the demons, whatever. But these things have always been here by the looks of it. And the Vatican right now, you can look at them as the religious arm on the outside, but in reality, they're the ones kind of, I don't know, Joe, how would you put it, communing with these things? They've been taken over. Have they been infested?
I'm going to send you some pictures while I know Scotty wants to say something, but I'm going to send you, I just sent you a link.
Got it.
Okay, and I'm going to put some stuff up of some of these symbols that aren't exactly what you would expect the placeholder of Christ to be utilizing, if you know what I mean.
And isn't there some rule within the Vatican that a Jesuit is not supposed to be the Pope? And isn't Pope Francis a Jesuit?
Yeah, the Black Pope's usually a Jesuit from the Jesuit order, from what I believe. But now, like you're saying, Scott, you've got a Jesuit in the main Pope role. So I would expect, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there must still be another Jesuit as the Black Pope, right? So it's almost as if the Jesuits,
I would imagine,
whatever they're into, they've
unless
kind of
unified it. Now it's like the cream-colored Pope.
Yeah, they've kind of taken over the place, though, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it has been totally infiltrated, and think about it. If you were wanting to hijack something, I mean, we talk about the hijacking of movements. I mean, about with other things, right? Why wouldn't the hijacking of a major religious organization be so far-fetched and have this operation take place over hundreds and hundreds of years? Of course, it and have it kind of portray itself to the public as one thing, and then as you dig deeper and peel the onion, or the layers of the onion back, you find out, oh well, it's the complete opposite. It's completely inverted from what they're presenting.
Inverted. Right. Look at that, because I mean,
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, there's a cross there, and for me, I'm not any expert on symbols, but I know it's bad juju when you've got one of them upside down. And yet this throne, and why any man sitting on a throne, is beyond me. We're absolutely...
They try to use the thing of, well, that's the cross of Peter, because Peter was crucified upside down. But, that's their excuse for that. That's the way they try to explain that away.
They can dress that one up as much as they want, Mr. Scotty. I think, like we say, hidden in plain sight, the same as all of these statues that we started off on tonight. But there's something else going on here, and even one of the major... It's
like they're trying to say, you look up at the sky, it's clearly blue, and they're telling you, no, Kev, it's green. It's a green sky. Yep. You're crazy.
You're right, though.
You're supposed to believe it. Say what?
And then, of course, we have to, and I kind of give credit to Popeye for this one, because I'd obviously heard David Icke and Credo Mutwa talking about it originally, but it was only when we were doing shows with Popeye, and I was really getting into Popeye stuff, that he really started going into the whole Chittahoorie and the kind of the reptilian mythology of the Zulus. Now, if you look at people from Africa, I'm sorry, But you know, take this as you will. They were here originally, folks. You know, they've been here a long, long time, and their story, their mythology, you know, it involves two reptilian kind of brothers, I believe it is, Joe, and the Chitahuri, right? So you've got the Chitahuri, also turning up in kind of modern culture with the Marvel stuff as well. And there's just one kind of story where these reptilians are right at the very heart of it, right at the very inception of it. So you've got to wonder again, and call it doing the show with Ike recently, maybe Charlie the other night, but this reptilian influence. And we even talk about the technology that's rolling out today, right? And how much of this technology has actually been given to us from information that comes from them, comes from other beings, comes from other entities. And if that's the case, if there's just one slight chance of that, and I know this is deep woo, then we better watch what we're building out here, because they're handing us the keys to all of this technology, and it ain't for our benefit. We can see that. We can see how this is all leading towards some kind of control, some kind of greater oppression upon us. It's not setting us free, that's for sure. In fact, it's taking us more and more into this future where the Vatican, they'll totally come clean, Joe. They'll tell us one day, you know, okay, it's not God we're actually worshipping, folks. Here's the new world religion, and it's one of these big bad boy scaly things that we're actually praying down to. That would not surprise me, you know? And when it comes to hive minds and things like that, I'm sorry, but that makes me think of like other entities, and that's where they're taking us. So I don't know. I think there's just something bigger going on here. You can look at the Vatican, you can look at ancient times, you can look at these statues we're talking about. I don't know, just some kind of outside influence, dude.
Ooh, we got a super chat coming in. Just a guy.
Here it comes. Here it comes. You ready, Scott? We should have got a snake to bring them in tonight, don't you think? Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah.
Yo guys, remember they found all the bones from the Catholic orphanage, I think in the UK. Crazy skeezer. To my peeps in the chat, smoke 'em if y'all goat 'em.
Canada.
They did.
You know what? The AI's getting a lot better at reading that stuff.
Canada as well. They found that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, you look at what these people are into. This is nothing good. Nothing good at all. And in fact,
let me say this also. Whether or not we choose to accept the fact that these people that are developing these technologies are in communication with these entities, it's true. And if you don't believe it, it doesn't mean it's not true. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at the stuff that is being developed, and you can see where it's headed. Anybody that does any sort of research into anything antediluvian and biblical prophecy, any sort of prophecy, you can look at, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh. You can look at all of these parallels stories. There is plenty to tell us where we're headed, and it's not a good place. And I do not personally want to play with some of these entities. They don't play nice. Not at all. The sandbox is not a place for reptilians.
no, you're right, dude. You're right. Maybe, though, this is why we see 5G, we see everything else coming in. We see the Schumann resonance of the planet changing, almost as if the sandbox has been altered, so that these things are more able to operate in this dimension, shall we say. We see in the ghost hunts, paranormal, it's usually electromagnetic kind of fluctuations that indicate that there's energies there. These things are energies, and they take various forms, you know?
We only see 5% of the visible light spectrum.
And that
5%.
And again, dude, that's out of 100%, okay? But that scale was devised by our brains. So there could be even more than that.
Probably more, right.
5% of what we appreciate, and maybe that's about 2% of what's actually there.
think also about the dark matter as well, right? So we always talk about where's the mass? Where's all the mass of the universe if we don't see all of this stuff? Well, what if it is all of those layers that you don't see, all of that stuff, the interdimensional stuff? You just don't see it, but it's there.
I was thinking about this as well today, you know. What if there is one of these kind of really ancient civilization species that's been out there in this galaxy or some other galaxy, right? And I'm talking mega ancient. It got to the point where, you know, something happened to where it was living, its planet, its solar system, destruction was coming close, and maybe they perfected a way to upload themselves, put themselves into some kind of digital form, right? And now over the course of the last, 50 years, we've kind of built out all of the technology that could be required for them to reanimate themselves. Yeah, dude. We're on the verge now of building, publicly, we're on the verge. So privately, in the DUMBs, the deep underground bases and things, we've already got synthetic life forms that are just like us, okay? Synthetic biology. Totally different from us. They look like us. They sound like us. They talk like us. It's all kind of effect. They're us, but they're genetically modified. They're genetically made humans. 2.0. What goes into them, Joe?
But think about this also, as you talk about the synthetic life forms and things like that. But, and we talk parallels. So let's just say that that's the case, that there was this civilization, if you will, that knew it was in big trouble and they digitized themselves and they're reanimating themselves now or whatever, however it happened. Look at the story of Nibiru and how humans were the Anunnaki's slaves to mine gold for their dying planet, right? Okay, so now, you know, or fallen angels or whatever you want to call them, Kev. Again, you know, when those languages were scattered, people were talking about the same thing, but different names and different variations of the same story.
You see, this is where we get Enki and things coming into it with the Anunnaki.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's too much around that story for it all to be kind of written off as Zachariah Sitchin's this or Zachariah Sitchin's that and things. There's far too much to all of this, and you can see back at that time. What were we going back about 5,000 years on that timeline, Joe? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Enki.
which if you look at the Hebrew calendar, I think we're at like 57 something, if I remember right, since the beginning, since creation, 57 something. So between 55 and 6,000 years. So at least that's when they started, you know, keeping the calendar. And that would basically marry up with this timeline that you have here. So, yeah, I mean, that's...
And somebody in the chat room was saying the Reptilians equals the Seraphim.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
You see, there's too many references. Yeah, there's too many references to them. And I mean, you even go to the Garden of Eden. It's a talking snake in there, right? That offers, right. I mean, you got talking snakes in the Bible, dude.
Just saying, you know? There's so much to the Bible. The first thing, and I always tell people to understand with that, it wasn't written as a collective book. It was never meant to be that way. So to read it from cover to cover like a book is wrong. You don't do it that way.
I mean, look at these things as well, dude. I mean,
you know what I find so interestingly about that,
like
Kev,
horse head, isn't it? It's almost like a horse head.
It's people will open their hearts and their minds and concentrate and everything else for a Ouija board. But they won't do it when they want to understand the Bible and unlock spirituality or whatever it is they whatever road they venture down. They would rather play games with dark entities and spirits than to go down another road, the straight and narrow path, if you will. It's crazy.
No, it's crazy, dude. Oh, it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, Scotty, I don't know how we end. Well, I do know how we ended up on the Reptilians today. Just Charlie Robinson kind of whet my appetite for it the other night.
Fantastic, by the way. He's like one of your best guests. I love that guy.
him. Yeah, and his mum even jokes that she thinks we're kind of related in some way that we don't even know
Must
about.
be.
It's one of those ones where you just instantly get on. I think that kind of I'm having more and more of that since I started the show. Really
Was Father Baker a milkman by any chance?
No, he wasn't an interdimensional time traveler or anything cool like that either. Bit of a bum, really, but no. No.
I mean, the whole there's definitely something to the whole reptilian thing, right? And I think a lot of that was put out there. The whole reptilian thing was turned into like, well, you're crazy. How they tried to say that Ike was crazy because he just basically brought up the whole. I mean,
I think you're right, Scott. You're on it. You're on it
his time.
Think of it, because he was really looking at some of the ancient stuff we've looked at today, right? And you can back that up, and then
he was before his time.
Yeah, but then it was almost as if that was kind of they infiltrated it, because certain characters he came across on his journeys over to, I believe it was Arizona, that they started to make it a more fantastical kind of affair with these reptilian entities. And that then was ammunition for those out there trying to make David look stupid.
Right.
But it kind of it diluted all of the historical stuff that he'd put together, like Credo Mutwa, like all of these carvings, like all of these structures around the planet that have this common kind of theme where they're all pointing to these damn reptiles in the living room,
Exactly. I mean, all Ike was doing was presenting the historical and factual information that, look, all of these ancient cultures, all of these cultures around the world that supposedly had no contact with each other.
Holy hell, Joe's shape-shifting. Joe's shape-shifted.
Who put on their sunglasses?
Holy hell, Joe.
This isn't They Live.
You'll get invited to the Buckingham Palace for dinner looking like that, dude.
I pee blue, too.
He sees slithery people.
Reptile was always my one of my favorite characters in Mortal Kombat, so...
Same here, Scott. Same here. When I seen it, I thought the angle of the face, I thought I can make Joe into that. Absolutely did. So what did the chat room think? I want to see the chat room. Type put at my name, and then it'll show up. It'll like have a big kind of a highlighted bit. What do you think of the reptiles, folks? Still influencing reality today? Are they the things behind the curtain that are at the very, very top of the pyramid? Or as Charlie Robinson would say, are they the very heart of the octopus? Are they above this dimension with their tentacles reaching down into it? That's the question. So we'll see what's coming from the chat here, guys. But Scott, on you go, man.
It is interesting, that you had all of these ancient civilizations, like I said, that were spread across the globe that supposedly never had contact with each other. Yeah, but they're all kind of talking about the same things. They're all referencing reptilians or some kind of reptile creatures back in the day, all the way from, you talk about the Aztecs, they had, was it the Lord of the Underworld, right? Wasn't he a reptile? Then you have European civilizations, they're referencing dragons and
right. In the chat room here,
civilizations.
In the chat room here, before I lose it, Scott, right? Karen says Draco are worse, and that was a quote I'd pulled up today, and it's from David Icke, and it says here, thousands of years ago, the reptilian beings from the constellations Orion, Sirius, and Draco intervened on planet Earth and began interbreeding with humans, not physically, however, but rather through the manipulation of the human coding or DNA.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. And then it says, Ike states, it's no coincidence that humans have fundamental reptilian genetics within their brain. And that's our
reptilian
instinct.
brain,
Yeah,
right?
our survival instinct, fight or flight, all of that, those basic things that literally keep us alive and we don't have to think about. That's like that reptilian cortex, you know?
Kev, that's what Clotaire Pi talks about all the time. He believes heavily in the 3 brain method, the reptilian, the cortex, the limbic, and how the reptilian part of your brain deals specifically, like you said, with survivability and reproducibility. Those are your 2 base level instincts that are covered by the reptilian brain. So it's interesting. When you look at mind control, one of the key tenets of mind control and or winning an argument is you always tailor the argument to go back to the reptilian. If you can get it to center around survivability and reproducibility, you will win every time. That's what Rapai says. And he's been extremely successful in utilizing that school of thought or technique and deploying it in business and industry.
Yeah. If you can boil it down to the base level thinking of your reptilian brain, which is just like the most base level thinking, like you said, it's survivability, reproduction, just your core sort of instincts. Then yeah, I mean, I guess you can't really go any further than that when it comes to kind of getting somebody to jump on board with an argument or win them over, I guess you could say.
Right.
I mean, look at this one here. This is one I seen earlier on. This is a modern statue. Don't get me wrong. However, it's to depict something called Iguana Man.
Iguana Man.
It comes from Peru. I mean, Iguana Man. I mean, I get it.
But down there, that it's very, very entrenched in their culture. These entities and these beings, Kev. Down there, it's much more common.
You want to see somewhere that's weird and it's modern?
Sure.
Let's go to Norway, right? Because this is really strange. And it says the Nobel Brotherhood and Vigeland's strange art in Oslo.
Okay.
Now, if we come down here, you'll start to see some of the.
And this is modern art?
Yeah, this is modern. It says, what do Nobel Peace Prize medal and the Vingard Sculpture Garden have in common? Nudity and the same artist. So we come down here, but you start to get into this place. I mean, look at this.
Wow.
This is modern art.
Yeah, see that.
And then you've got the reptile. Look, you've got the reptile actually cuddling around the woman.
Bizarre. But again, it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah. Look at
it.
it.
And that's the thing. You don't have to believe in any of that to channel it. That's the thing, is that these beings can use you and you don't even know you're being used. That's the craziness of it all.
I don't know, there's something weird about this in this place. It's
bizarre.
Really weird.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go there?
I mean, look
and
at that.
stand
look at
there
the
and like
symbology
all
of
the beauty of that? How do you? I mean, it just, to me, Kev, it doesn't. That I don't know.
Vigeland Park is a well-known picnic area, popular in the summer for sunbathing, games, and relaxation. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something kind of dark and something kind of weird about this place.
How do you relax in that place?
Lizard fountains.
A lizard fountain, of course.
Man,
do not ever
look at that, dude. What?
Wow. You know,
are you kidding?
No, like I say, this is one of the weird places, and this was a few years ago I heard about this.
Wow, Kev.
I would not suggest dropping LSD and walking through that place.
Jesus, have mercy. Mind melt-a-palooza.
Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. Then we'll take a look at some. Let's have a see if anyone's tagged me in the chat room. Reptilian brain, of course they have altered our DNA. I do think that. I think at some point, maybe multiple points, we've had reptilians and other entities down here tweaking the code. And again, That doesn't take anything away from a creator, a programmer, an architect, because
not at all.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. So, yep, I think there's been intervention.
Here's the other thing too, right? Because this is
look
what
at
makes
the rhesus negative, right? That whole thing with the monkey blood. You know, these.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing. I mean,
it's a very
how does that
weird
gene
thing.
turn up when it doesn't come out of Africa like we're told the human race does? So there's obviously, you can see some, I don't know, clues that there might have been some manipulation of the DNA at some point.
Yeah, and again, you know, if you want to read a good book on it, Earth's Earliest Ages, you can check out Randall Carlson. That book, Earth's Earliest Ages, and Randall Carlson, really, to me, give as much evidence as I need to make the determination that there was a pre-Adamite civilization, probably multiple. And then, you know, Graham Hancock, those just the evidence supports it. And then if you look at biblical prophecy, it says that, you know, first of all, you're going to have a resurrection after it gets really, really bad. So the resurrection, those that are still alive on the earth will be translated, go to heaven for 1,000 years. Earth is totally destroyed by fire. 1,000 years you're in heaven. 1,000 years after that, New Jerusalem comes down. Humanity lives on the earth with Christ as the king, and we go on to live in a golden age. So that would tell me that if that's the case, then after the earth regenerates, we're coming back and populating the earth again. And then we would be another generation or another, what would you say, addition of humanity?
2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, who knows?
Whatever, right? But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it would just be another iteration of humanity. Basically,
exactly, based on whatever the planetary characteristics are of that time. Damn it. I keep losing control.
Oh, this has been fun, boys. This has been fun. See, this is what I had in mind when we started out on this kind of streaming malarkey. You know, getting into a really cool and crazy topic like this and just going balls to the wall and just... Blah, blah, blah. Come on, Joe. Give us earlier on, you know, it was said that you might channel Begley today. But you're better than Begley, dude. Come on, man. Come on, dude. Get us going, man. Come on.
I can't do it. The brain will yell at me.
Oh, come on. See.
I'm whipped.
Ah, terrible. Folks, I'll need to start recording.
Paul Begley.
Do it.
She's just told me no, I can't do it.
Angela. So what else? Come on, boys. What else before we depart?
So I haven't had a chance to, you know, see what you've been really covering, Kevin. Have you guys talked about the whole this metallic structure that was found in the moon, you know, under the crater?
The magnetic thing at the South Pole or something?
Yeah, well, you know, what's going on with all that? Of course, I've been seeing a lot of, you know, sensational stuff. Is it a dumb?
Dum. Awesome. No message with the super chat. Temple technology, thank you very, very much, sir, madam, miss, he, she, it, they. I don't know what your pronoun is today. So
whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yes.
You like how I done that, Scott? You like how I done it?
That was very nice.
Yeah.
All inclusive.
Yes, very inclusive. Yeah. So what's your take? Is it what do you think of what's going on with the moon here? I know there's supposed to be. The moon is supposed to have a layer of platinum, I believe it is, just under the surface, which would make it very...
Well, okay, so here we have a satellite, right, that just so coincidentally is the perfect size for an eclipse and is placed in such an orbit that could never be done in a natural, quote unquote, manner. And from what they said when they drilled core samples with the Apollo missions, they did the core samples and they said that the surface is actually, that dusty part isn't that deep, and then you hit solid.
Yeah.
So it could, I don't know,
I heard it's some kind of
you think it's platinum?
That's what I've heard. I think
Pretty cool.
Or
like a platinum planet.
Some kind of a very expensive mineral.
I think we're starting to get drip fed the fact that there's potential mining to go on up on the moon sometime very soon. And whether that's what they're really doing or whether it's cover for getting something else up there, I really don't know. But, I'd imagine over the time, and yes, Joe and Scott, the moon is almost miraculous in its shape and size, and how it's just able to sit in exactly the right place, exactly the right size to give us that.
A reptilian observation post.
That brilliant kind of eclipse effect. And yes, if you were setting up some kind of genetic experiment, some terraforming experiment, and letting it play out to see how the life evolves and advances over time, then yes, Joe, what a perfect way to disguise your laboratory where you're going to sit and do your experimentation from.
Hey, also, what were they called? They were called Watchers, right?
Right, there you go. And Scott, I would imagine platinum, I would imagine there's various things in there from the kind of rocks that have smashed into over time. Who honestly knows what they might find?
Scotty, we all hope you're doing well, brother. Hang in there. Whatever they say, drugs are bad, them K. We're all with Yar and love Yaron.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Thank you very much, Just a Guy.
And it says here, a mysterious large mass of material, Scott, has been discovered beneath the largest crater in our solar system, the moon's south pole, Aitken Basin, and may contain metal from the asteroid that crashed into the moon and formed the crater, according to Baylor University. So yeah, that's one take on what it is, Scotty.
So, here's an interesting thing, Joe brought up the whole rare earth mineral situation, right?
Oh boy.
Well, we might not even have to worry about that situation if we just get up there to the moon and start mining rare earth minerals and bringing it back. Then we can cut China completely out of that little equation.
And what if it literally is us realizing that this was the Death Star at one point? Imagine a metallic sphere up there, platinum, whatever it's made of. That place where they camped out, they set up shop to do what they do here. I don't know, and that takes us back to the Chitahuri, right? Because you listen to that story, and the Zulus say that the Chitahuri, they brought the moon with them. And you look at how the moon is absolutely essential for life and things to operate the way they do right now here on the planet. Without the moon, we'd be gone, right?
Exactly.
So it's again, it's too magical, Scott, just to be a random coming together of dust and rock, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. It like I said, it's either platinum or titanium or maybe even both. You might maybe try to look that up and see what they think that.
And just the guy, remember this, guys, when the lacrosse mission and they fired the projectile at the moon and it gave it the whole kind of, think about it, Quasimodo effect. It rang the bells. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, so it's hollow, right?
It rang like a bell, and what if we're looking at, what if at one point it was some kind of an operational space station type situation, and over time it hasn't been used and the surface of it has degraded, and so it just looks like a bunch of dust and powder and
there you go, Scott,
stuff on it.
Billionaire entrepreneur to start mining the moon for gold and platinum by the end of 2017, it says.
Why not, right?
But the point is they must then think that there's enough up there to justify going up to mine it, okay?
Oh, There's so much up
Yeah.
there.
Right.
There's enough up there to sustain humanity probably, until we're gone. I would assume. I mean, you're talking about a planetary body that's just loaded with rare earth minerals, and it's not like you have to find specific areas to do it. I mean, you could just you could mine that thing for hundreds of thousands of years, I would think, and still never really make much of a dent in it. It's crazy how much resources are actually up there if we were to actually utilize it.
No, you're right. You're bang on, dude. You're bang on. So before we go, guys, right? Before we go, we'll start to wrap it up. We're at our golden 90-minute mark. I like the 90 minutes.
We are.
Right?
I like the golden 90-minute mark.
Joe, I want you to tell me, do you think there is some reptilian / demonic influence still on the planet today and has been here, as we've seen kind of recorded in stone throughout time?
Yes, I do. I just don't think it's as people think it is.
It's not as shapeshiftery as we sometimes have a laugh and a joke about with the Queen and things.
Maybe, but I'm just going to say that, yes, that presence is here.
I think, yeah. And if it's in that elite bloodlines, I absolutely go along with that as well. Scott, your take, man. You think it's here? You think it's all hocus pocus, blah, 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 ooga booga?
I definitely think it's here, and I'm with Joe. I don't think it's in the form that a lot of people, think. Like, you're not having some reptilian guy that looks like the Slee Slack from Land of the Lost walking up to you or anything like that. I think it has to do more with genetics.
We've got a draconian in the chat room. Gabriel de Leon. Oh, that's cool, man. That's a draconian. So you never know. And listen, I'm not laughing or joking. I don't think the blue chickens are here walking amongst us. But would I be surprised to find out that there's things that are not slightly human amongst us? I would not be surprised in the slightest.
Or that we're not advancing technology to bring these creatures about.
I think
that's the other thing too, that they will be physically present as they complete their plan, I guess you could say. I don't know.
And the way that they're getting around all of the kind of maybe laws of the universe, Scott, that prevent them coming here in the first place, we're literally giving up we're welcoming them in like the vampire through the door, right? Because we're going out and we're spending heinous amounts of money on all of this technology that literally is tying us into this system that they're going to utilize to come through and operate and interfere again on an even grander scale than they have been in the past. We're literally building it out for them.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I think we're seeing this more play out in the realm of genetics, elite bloodlines that try to keep those genetics pure, and stuff like that. I think that is more of the realm in which we're seeing this influence, this quote unquote reptilian influence.
And if they need these kind of husks, the kind of vehicle to go around in this reality, then we see what's happening with kids at school and things getting confused and stuff. And we can see the birth rates going down to the point where maybe, birth rates will hit 0 and we will have to create these human 2.0.
They don't have to hit 0. That's a misconception.
But remember though, Joe, it gets to the point where we actually, and we're already so inclusive with all of these different kind of groups that people and identities that people kind of take on nowadays, then is it really too much to imagine the next identity that we have to really respect would be synthetic humans?
Absolutely.
Not ones that think they are, ones that literally are. You see? So this is where we're going. A good conversation tonight, guys. Enjoyed this. Hope people don't lose any sleep tonight, especially when they're thinking about Joe and his shape-shifting ways over there, I had to do it to you, Joe. I had to, man.
I can't believe you exposed. I can't believe you exposed me like that.
Fear not, yes. Ep Emsley in the chat room, fear not. Absolutely. Love and light. We like a bit of love and light. The days of men will be shortened and no flesh would be left on the earth by Guy Wilson. I think we're getting close to go time, boys. Paul Begley told me. Seriously.
Before we go, I gotta say, tomorrow is going to be the last time I'm gonna be on the stream for quite a while.
Are you serious?
Oh, Scotty, is it close to go time for Scotty?
Chop, chop.
Yes.
Here he goes.
Next week, my foot is going to endure the same fate as a Saudi who smokes weed. So
very nice, very nice. Will they make it a vajankle?
Why, Joe? Why? Why did you have to go there, dude? No, but Scotty, I'm just glad you're going to be getting this over and done with.
Me too. Closure, buddy. Closure.
Yeah, exactly, man. We get you
and
back.
We'll be here. We'll keep your seat warm for you.
Yes.
You've been knocking it out of the park for months, and you've been in pain. You've not been getting sleep. So I can only imagine how much you're going to bring back with you when you're back.
Could you imagine the intensity, dude?
Dude, it's going to be awesome. It really is. You like a bit of dramatic music in the background, boys?
Very dramatic, by the way.
You like that?
Yeah, yes. I don't know. That music is kind of, it's dramatic, but it's almost that kind of music to where, like, I'm not terminal, Kev. You know, I mean,
wow, yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Pretty morbid, Kev. It's that Scottish dry wit.
You're
shocking, man. Dark bastard, you.
Joe, you inspire me. You really do.
Listen,
chop, chop. I was looking through some of the copyright-free stuff in the YouTube library, and what I found was actually portions of the soundtrack to Westworld.
No.
And of course,
that's copyrighted, dude.
No, it's not. No, I got it from the YouTube's own audio library. Thank you very much. Yeah.
They donated it or something.
It's there's a lot of cinematic stuff in there, and it took me a while to find it, but as soon as I heard it, and of course there's a link between that and the show, because we've had on the dude that founded Sanctuary, the company
that's right.
that are literally bringing Westworld to life. And no, this show was not sponsored by Sanctuary AI. But if you want to check them out, please do. I'm only joking.
Jesus, have mercy. And with that,
the company,
I can't hit the end stream. I'm trying.
The company, right, that are literally building the vehicles for the reptilians we talk of.
Oogity. Boogity.
Yes. I'm away to eat some. Remember the TV show V before we go? Remember they pulled off the skin?
Dude, the reptilians that drank sour milk and got drunk.
Yeah, and they eat mice and things.
Yeah.
See, dude, see, they're real. They live. They're here. They're among us.
They live.
I see reptile people.
I see dead people.
Night, y'all.